Welcome to the Depth Dive, the show where we take a whole stack of sources, articles, research, and really try to boil them down into the most important, maybe surprising, and often, yeah, quite illuminating nuggets of knowledge.
That's the goal.
And most of us, when we hear the term home economics, we immediately get these pictures in our heads.
Oh, yeah. Dusty sewing machines.
You're right. Or maybe those really archaic cooking lessons, or perhaps some very prim and proper etiquette classes from, I don't know, decades ago.
Definitely feels like a relic sometimes.
It really does. It's often dismissed as just that, a quaint subject from a bygone era. But what if I told you that beneath that sort of seemingly mundane surface, there's this powerful, almost radical history, maybe even a kind of social engineering?
Okay, interesting angle.
What if the origins and the evolution of this field actually reveal a profound, surprising, and honestly incredibly relevant framework, not just for understanding modern life, but for actively, navigating it, understanding societal expectations, even shaping how we see ourselves?
So moving beyond the recipes.
Exactly. Today's deep dive isn't about recipes or garment patterns. We're going to unpack the hidden curriculum, the evolving philosophy behind home economics education itself.
Yeah.
We're going to explore these historical sources that really shed light on how this field aimed to prepare individuals for life, for family, for society.
And it's quite the story.
And I promise you, these insights might just fundamentally change how you think about your own daily routines, maybe even the unspoken pressures you face every day.
And to guide us through this pretty fascinating journey, our core source material is this really captivating collection of documents. They trace the history of home economics.
Right.
We're specifically zooming in on insights we gleaned from these Saskatchewan high school home economics curriculum guides from 1956 and 1969.
Wow. Specific.
Very specific, but they're not just like dry instructional manuals.
Right.
These guides, along with some broader historical accounts, they offer a truly fascinating window into how society's expectations for home life and individual presentation were implicitly and explicitly taught.
Yeah.
And you'll see how these expectations evolved quite dramatically, actually, with the times. Yet some underlying threads, particularly around appearance and external evaluation, remained surprisingly constant.
That constancy is interesting.
It really is.
So our mission today is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sources, basically giving you a shortcut to being well-informed about a field that has quietly, but profoundly shaped our understanding of home, self, and success for generations.
Get ready for some aha moments.
Definitely. We want to connect the past to your present, maybe give you a completely new lens to view some of your most basic daily interactions, your responsibilities.
Yeah.
If you're picturing that, apron-clad grandmother figure.
Let's maybe shatter that image.
Let's shatter it right now. To truly grasp the kind of quiet power of home economics, we need to go back to its origins, which were maybe more radical than you'd think.
Okay.
Because what started as seemingly humble domestic arts, it quickly evolved into something, profoundly ambitious.
Right.
It began very modestly, late 1800s. Early books, classes, focused squarely on practical domestic skills, homemaking.
Makes sense for the time.
Yeah, think of it as a direct practical response to, the realities of daily life in a rapidly industrializing society.
Okay.
But here's where it gets interesting. Did you know that Mary Beaumont Welch's cookbook, published way back in 1884 at Iowa State University?
1884.
Yeah. It was the very first book to actually give college credit for what they called domestic economy classes.
College credit for cooking. That's
Well,
significant.
It is. This wasn't just about teaching someone how to bake a perfect pie, right? It was
Yeah.
about elevating domesticity itself to a scholarly pursuit,
Okay.
making it a serious area of academic study,
Yeah.
demanding intellectual rigor alongside the practical application.
That's a crucial distinction, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what's fascinating here is how quickly the field tried to professionalize itself in the early 1900s.
Right. It wasn't slow.
No, it was a deliberate, concerted effort. You see it exemplified by the Lake Placid conferences, which started back in 1899.
Lake Placid conferences.
Okay.
Yeah, these gatherings brought together some of the brightest educators, reformers of the time, who were actively trying to define and legitimize this new discipline.
So giving it structure.
Exactly. They actually debated calling it oecology, which, get this, literally translates to the science of right living.
The science of right living. That's ambitious.
Hugely ambitious. Think about that. They were aiming to establish a field that wasn't just about managing a house, but about optimizing, like human flourishing within their environment.
Wow.
Ultimately, they settled on home economics in 1899, but that initial debate over ecology really signals their profound intent.
It definitely does.
It clearly signaled a desire to establish home economics as a legitimate academic profession, something much more profound, more intellectually robust than just mere household arts.
Right.
This ambition for broader intellectual recognition, it was a driving force from the very beginning, really laid the groundwork for a systematic approach to domestic life.
And this push for professionalization, it quickly led to forming these influential organizations, really solidifying its academic standing.
Like associations and things.
Exactly. Ellen Swallow Richards, who's a truly pioneering figure from those Lake Placid conferences.
Ah, the name sounds familiar.
Yeah, she went on to found the American Home Economics Association, which is now known as the American Association of Family and Consumer Sciences, or AAFTS. That was in 1909.
Okay, still around today then.
Still around. And just a year earlier, 1908, the International Federation for Home Economics was established.
International too, so it wasn't just the U.S.
Not just the U.S. It highlights this global recognition, a shared ambition for the field. And beyond the academic sphere, federal funding also played a huge transformative role,
Yeah.
especially in the U.S.
Money talks.
It certainly does. These weren't just dusty legislative names. Acts like the Smith-Laver Act of 1914 and the Smith-Hughes Act of 1917.
Okay.
They essentially poured federal money into vocational education, specifically earmarking funds for homemaking.
So the government saw a value in it.
A clear signal, yeah. The U.S. government saw training in domestic skills as a national priority, crucial for developing what they considered good citizens and stable homes across the country.
Mm.
It elevated homemaking from, a private chore to this publicly funded strategic endeavor, created widespread programs in public schools.
Right.
And at this time, it's worth noting, home economics was still largely dominated by women,
Yeah, I figured.
largely because they had very limited access to other vocational training opportunities. The National Education Association noted back then, 2/3 of women were primarily engaged in homemaking as a vocation,
Wow, 2/3.
compared to men who were largely focused on agriculture or other non-agricultural productive areas.
And what's so striking is that this wasn't just an American thing, as you said.
No, not at all.
This ambition to professionalize domesticity, to teach the science of right living, it was kind of universal.
It really seems that way.
By the late 19th century, Family and Consumer Sciences, or FCS as it's often known today, was being taught worldwide. You see compelling examples like South Korea, it's known as consumer science, so Bijahak.
So BTOC, okay.
And the first college-level department was established at Ewha Women's University back in 1929.
1929, wow. Exploring the science of consumption and family welfare almost a century ago.
Imagine. And in Indonesia, it evolved into Family Training and Welfare, known as PKK. That became state policy in 1972, integrating its principles right into national governance.
State policy, that's significant.
And even in Italy, what was once home economics transitioned through technical applications to technical education, and eventually it shed its gender differentiation entirely as society changed.
So it adapted.
It adapted. This truly global footprint, it underscores this universal human need for these practical life skills, right? How to manage a household, care for a family, make wise consumer choices, even if the names and focuses varied by culture.
Absolutely. It highlights a shared understanding that these skills are foundational for thriving societies. Practical steps for living, basically.
Exactly. Practical steps.
And it's absolutely crucial we tackle that common misconception head on.
The aprons and cakes.
The aprons and cakes. Home economics is and always has been so much more than just sewing aprons, cooking, and baking cake.
Right.
While those were certainly components and important ones for daily living, the field illuminated this wide interdisciplinary range of studies.
Like what specifically?
Well, in-depth explorations of food and nutrition, the science behind clothing and textiles, critical aspects of child development, the sociology of the family, even quite sophisticated consumer protection strategies.
Okay. Much broader.
Much broader. And in the early to mid-20th century, it truly provided a vital bridge for students, especially women, into higher education and then into these burgeoning professions.
Like teaching.
Teaching, definitely.
Yeah.
Healthcare, hospitality. Graduates from these advanced programs often became the very teachers who passed on this knowledge.
Cyclical.
Or they went into roles in hospitals as dietitians, managed large-scale food service in restaurants, or even worked in government agencies focused on public health. Universities doing research in home economics also taught advanced classes in subjects like nutrition, hygiene, the economics of household management.
So it was academically rigorous.
Absolutely. It provided a rigorous academic pathway, demonstrating that managing a home and family was a complex intellectual endeavor.
That makes so much sense. It wasn't just learning manual skills. It was about performing a role for society, understanding these intricate systems of daily life.
Exactly. Performance is a good word.
And this idea of performance and societal roles brings us right to how the field grappled with gender roles as the 20th century moved on, doesn't it?
It really does. In the mid-20th century, home economics definitely broadened its focus beyond just traditional homemaking,
Okay.
and importantly started being taught to both male and female students.
Ah, co-ed, finally.
Right. But by the late 20th century, specifically around 1994, the term home economics itself, well, it often earned a negative connotation,
Yeah, I can see that. Old-fashioned.
precisely because of that lingering gender bias, seen as old-fashioned, restrictive, exclusively for women.
Hmm.
This led to a significant and quite intentional rebranding in the United States. They adopted the name Family and Consumer Sciences, or FCS,
FCS, right.
to better reflect its inclusive scope, extending far beyond just traditional home life and wellness, to cover things like financial literacy, resource management, social dynamics.
Got it.
But despite that lingering stigma from the past, what's fascinating is that the skills of homemaking eventually became socially acceptable for both men and women.
Oh, interesting distinction.
Yeah, with both now explicitly expected to care for the home, children, and finances in the U.S. The concept maybe changed more slowly than the practice in some ways.
Huh.
That shift in perception is certainly reflected in the numbers, though, which show a clear societal change.
A decline.
A significant decline in formal home economics courses over the past century in many places. For instance, enrollment in FCS secondary programs in the U.S. dropped by a staggering 38% over a single decade,
38%. Wow.
reaching just 3.5 million students in 2012. It really makes you ask, what was lost when these essential life skills were deprioritized?
Yeah, that's a big question.
However, there's a burgeoning, very promising resurgence happening now. Some schools are starting to reincorporate life skill courses back into their curriculum.
Oh, really? That's good news.
It signals a renewed recognition of their intrinsic value. This truly raises an important question for all of us today. Why is this knowledge, often dismissed as old-fashioned, still so profoundly important in our complex modern world?
Right.
Many young people are graduating without the basic financial literacy, nutritional understanding, or household management skills that were once a staple.
Yeah.
This resurgence suggests a practical step for us, recognizing the enduring need for these skills in our daily lives or families, even if they're not called home HE anymore.
And the practical relevance, as you say, it's vast. It extends into this surprising array of contemporary careers that rely directly on what home economics traditionally taught.
It really does.
We're talking about professions like food scientist or technologist,
Yeah, understanding nutrition, food safety on an industrial scale.
dietitians and nutritionists guiding our health through food, hotel managers,
Overseeing complex operations involving hospitality, domestic comfort.
even a trading standards officer, which involves crucial consumer protection directly related to that consumer awareness taught in home e-builds.
That's a great connection.
There are also roles like environmental health practitioner, fashion designer,
Understanding textiles, aesthetics.
and home care organizer, managing complex family needs. This list really emphasizes the foundational nature of these skills,
Absolutely.
demonstrating their applicability across so many diverse industries, proving that home economics provides a base for, like you said, optimal and sustainable living.
Preparing individuals not just for domestic life, but for various aspects of adult life and a wide range of careers.
It's about building capacity for real-world living. Those practical steps.
Exactly. Now, with that foundational understanding of how home economics began to professionalize globally, it's really illuminating to see how those grand ambitions played out in the classroom.
Okay, let's get specific.
So let's hone in on that specific example. What was being taught in Saskatchewan High School in 1956, just a decade after World War II.
Okay, the context is key here, right? Post-war.
Absolutely crucial.
Okay.
To fully appreciate its directives, we need to understand the historical context of that post-war period. This was a time in North America there was this powerful societal push for people to embody traditional roles within a nuclear family structure.
Why? To be good citizens.
Exactly, to be considered good citizens and, really, to prevent the return of the global instability that had just wreaked havoc.
Makes sense.
For women, this unequivocally meant embracing the vital role of wife, mother, and homemaker.
Seen as essential.
Absolutely crucial for national success and democratic stability, almost like a bulwark against the perceived threats of communism and moral decay.
Wow, that's heavy. The homemaker as a defender of democracy.
Pretty much.
It's truly fascinating how this guide linked the private sphere, the home, directly to broader societal welfare.
It's explicit.
The foreword explicitly frames homemaking not just as a set of chores, but as important preparation for the later development of happy and successful homes,
Right.
positioning the school as a key place to study good homemaking.
And good had a specific meaning.
Yeah, this wasn't just about maintaining a clean house, it was about cultivating good character in citizens' values like thrift, honesty, industry, self-control, cooperation,
All the virtues.
all explicitly aimed at preventing the perils of nationalism and totalitarianism seen in WWII.
So learning to darn socks was fighting fascism.
In a way.
In a way, yeah. The mother, and by extension the home economics teacher, was seen as the primary educator of this essential character, literally laying the groundwork for a strong, stable, democratic nation.
The home is the crucible of citizenship.
Exactly, the crucible of citizenship.
And this gendered expectation was far from subtle. It was explicitly woven into the fabric of that 1956 guide. They didn't mince words.
Doesn't beat around the bush at all. It explicitly addresses students as girls in grades 7 through 11, and then transitions to women in grade 12.
Girls, then women.
Okay. The grade 12 unit, iHome Living, leaves absolutely no room for ambiguity about its aim: to appreciate woman's place in society and to develop into efficient home managers.
Wow, woman's place.
And then these specific roles: 1, to bear children; 2, to take major responsibility for bringing up the children at least when they are small; 3, to be a homemaker.
Good grief, that's prescriptive.
Meticulously reinforcing the idea that home economics was preparing young women for a very defined, prescribed future trajectory within society. It essentially laid out a life plan.
A practical step towards fulfilling what was considered their destiny, I guess.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets truly interesting, though. The 1956 guide intricately presented the home as both material and social.
Right, not just the physical space.
Not just a physical structure, 4 walls and a roof. It was described as a place that requires attention to both the material and furnishing components of a house, and also attention to the emotional experiences of the people living within the home.
So the cleanliness of the kitchen was linked to the emotional well-being of the family.
Exactly. The phrase qualities of a happy home listed both congenial members, the social interpersonal aspect,
Okay.
and healthful atmosphere, physical, spiritual, mental, indicating this deep intentional blend of the tangible and intangible. That's what constituted a truly good and functional home.
It really makes you pause and consider how profoundly we're shaped by these unwritten rules and expectations of our time, doesn't it? Even about something as fundamental as our living space.
Totally.
Exactly. The material tasks taught were intrinsically linked to family care, serving as those practical steps for nurturing the household.
How so?
In grade 9, for example, Unit iHome Living aimed to develop in the girl an appreciation of her role in the family, which was unequivocally framed as a caregiving role.
Right.
This included explicit instructions for caring for baby, suitable games and playthings, dressing and bathing. Even something as seemingly simple as arranging furnishings for convenience meant students were learning to consider the comfort and needs of their family members within their shared space.
Making the home a supportive environment.
Ensuring the home truly functioned as a supportive environment. The intention was to instill this profound sense of responsibility for both the physical maintenance and the emotional well-being of the household.
And they made it incredibly practical, didn't they? Almost like an apprenticeship.
Very hands-on. The guide explicitly stated that learning to care for the school's laboratory equipment, things like sewing machines, cooking tools, the very tools of homemaking, should be rules to be practiced, not theory to be taught.
Learn by doing.
Students literally practiced with floors and painted woodwork, sinks, tabletops, stoves and cupboards, refrigerators and food containers.
Imagine learning to maintain a professional kitchen environment as a teenager.
Right. This hands-on approach directly implied a seamless transferability to their current home environment and their future domestic responsibilities.
Making skills second nature.
It really was about learning by doing, ensuring these practical skills became not just second nature, but almost instinctual,
Yeah.
preparing them for the realities of running a household.
And that practicality extended beyond the home itself, right?
Right.
Like with clothing.
Oh, absolutely. This practical application extended far beyond the literal walls of the home. The guide illustrated how caring for the family wash.
Which sound like a massive undertaking back
It
then.
was a meticulous process. Sorting, soaking, washing, bleaching, bluing, starching, drying, and ironing.
Bowling, yeah.
Yeah, it meant girls were responsible for the appearance of the entire family's clothing. This effectively extended home care into the public sphere.
How you looked reflected the home.
Exactly. The grade 12 Unit 3 clothing aimed to be able to play a real part in family clothing planning and to learn the skills that make working with fragile fabrics a pleasurable success, reinforcing that their domestic efforts, from a perfectly pressed shirt to a well-mended sock, would literally be on display for the world.
Right.
It wasn't just about cleanliness. It was about presenting the family, and by extension the home, as organized and respectable to the broader community.
It really puts our modern delicate cycle into perspective, doesn't it?
No kidding.
No doubt. And now, dress. It wasn't just about looking nice in the 1956 curriculum. It was deeply intertwined with character and social duty.
Very much so.
The guide emphasized that clothing should be becoming, meaning attractive, flattering, pleasing to the eye.
Becoming.
It-
Interesting word choice.
Yeah. The concept of being well-dressed was a recurring theme, and it wasn't arbitrary. It meant using principles of art, like harmony, balance, emphasis, color, texture.
Art principles in dressing.
Yes, to make or choose clothing that complemented one's figure and complexion. And crucially, it also had to be suitable to whatever activity was being undertaken.
Practicality again.
The goal was an overall appearance that was pleasing, neat, and orderly. This wasn't just personal style. It was about embodying a certain ideal of propriety, social responsibility.
And thrift was highlighted as an absolutely paramount virtue in all this.
Thrift. Makes sense post-war.
Definitely. The guide advised students to meticulously itemize the costs of sewing equipment and garments, and to rigorously consider the serviceability of fabrics,
So how long will it last?
promoting longevity and economy in dressing. This directly linked clothing choices to good character, encouraging students to be thriftful, cooperative, industrious.
Right.
It wasn't just about personal aesthetics or saving money. It was responsible resource management, reflecting broader moral principles, contributing to the economic stability of the home and, by extension, the nation.
In a post-war era of scarcity, thrift wasn't just practical, it was a civic duty, a practical step everyone needed to take.
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, in an age of fast fashion and disposable goods, what happened to that virtue of thrift that was once foundational?
Yeah, is it still a hidden pressure or just gone?
Good question.
And here's where the explicit, almost brutal evaluation of appearance comes in. This really resonates even today, I think.
Oh yeah, the scorecard.
The literal scorecard.
Yeah.
For evaluating student-sewn projects like a peasant blouse or an apron. Out of 100 points, a substantial 20 were for general appearance.
20% on just how it looked overall.
And with very specific criteria. Suitability of material to pattern and wearer. Color pleasing and appropriate to wearer. Line pleasing and appropriate to wearer. Neatness and harmony of fabric, thread, and trimmings.
Wow, down to the thread harmony.
This directly taught young women that their appearance would be judged by others down to the very details.
Internalizing external judgment.
It wasn't just about a good grade, it was training them to internalize these judgments about their every visible choice. Think about your social media feed today. How much of that pressure to present a pleasing, neat, and orderly appearance still dictates our digital lives?
That's a fantastic parallel. And what's truly fascinating here is that beauty in dress wasn't about individual appeal or self-expression in the way we might think of it today.
No, how so?
It was explicitly trained to please the eyes of others. A 1944 lecturer highlighted this, stating, "The love of beauty is innate in every soul, and to awaken and train this sense of beauty is one of the functions of home economics."
Train beauty.
Train beauty. And this wasn't just aesthetic education, it was seen as a social duty. Because, as one 1955 periodical put it, the world has to look at women whether it wants to or not.
Whoa, that's blunt.
Extremely blunt. This connected everyday appearance to a larger patriotic duty to maintain morale. even in the post-war era.
So women's dress is a public service.
Positioned that way,
Yeah.
yes. The expectation was that every thread, every seam, every color choice would be a public declaration of your character and your contribution to a stable society.
It's a profound insight into how deeply intertwined personal appearance and civic duty once were. Mind-blowing, really.
It really is.
So we've seen the very clear, very gendered expectations of 1956. The home as the crucible for national character, women's appearance as a social duty.
Yeah, very defined.
But what happens when society itself starts to crack those traditional molds? Let's leap forward just 13 years to 1969.
Big jump. A time of immense upheaval, cultural change in North America.
Absolutely. And this 1969 guide, it implicitly suggests a vastly different future for young women.
How so? Less marriage-focused.
Yeah, one that might involve separating from the family and attending to the importance of fitting in with one's peers, with much less emphasis on immediate marriage and traditional family roles.
Okay, that's a major shift.
It truly reflects that growing movement of women pursuing higher education, entering the workforce outside the home, forging more independent identities.
A seismic shift from the post-war stability ideal.
Totally.
And this profound societal shift is clearly seen in how the 1969 guide explicitly recognized adolescence, ages 10 to 19, as a distinct psychosocial stage.
Acknowledging teenagers as teenagers.
Right. Meaning, they understood this wasn't just physical growth, but a crucial period where young people were actively forming their identities, negotiating independence from family, and crucially, seeking acceptance from their peers.
Peer pressure becomes official curriculum.
Almost. Clothing choices were no longer just about suitability for a future homemaker. They were presented as a way to gain independence from the family group and acceptance by his or her peers.
Okay.
This is a core shift in social dynamics, acknowledging the increasing influence of peer groups over traditional family units, and the developing individual identity, which became a powerful driver in consumer choices and personal presentation.
And there's a significant linguistic shift too, right? Which is often a subtle indicator of deeper changes.
Yes, the wording changed.
The 1969 Housing and Interior Design Guide uses the terms house or housing far more often than home.
Housing versus home. Interesting. It's less emotional.
Seems like it. It signals a move towards a more impersonal setting for personal and family life, focusing on how housing is closely related to the social, psychological, and aesthetic aspects of living.
Okay.
It broadened the scope beyond just the nuclear family's warm domestic sphere, emphasizing the technical, functional, even scientific aspects of living spaces rather than just the emotional connotations of a home.
A subtle but powerful shift from nurturing a feeling to designing a functional environment.
Yeah.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the 1969 curriculum made a striking and deliberate move towards interdisciplinarity. This was a key practical step for elevating its academic standing.
Making connections to other subjects.
Explicitly, the opening of the Advanced Clothing Eye Guide states, "Clothing is a personal and social concern. Experts in the field of the social sciences have been urging home economists to develop interdisciplinary study."
Wow, they actually wrote that.
Right there in the guide. It wasn't just an internal observation, it was an explicit acknowledgement of external academic pressure. It links clothing studies directly to psychology, specifically citing the enrichment of self-concept, as well as anthropology and sociology, noting how changes in dress reflecting cultural development are important influences in sociological systems.
So a strategic move for the field, aiming for greater scholarly depth, intellectual rigor.
Absolutely.
And these connections were very much a strategic play, weren't they? A survival tactic in some way.
You could say that. In the 1960s, home economics faced a significant challenge. Vocational schools were growing, potentially threatening its place in academic high schools.
Oh, competition.
Right, by explicitly linking itself to established university disciplines like social history, for example, stating that the history of clothing will give us insight into the ideas and ideal of societies of yesteryear.
Okay.
The curriculum aimed to establish greater scholarly depth and academic legitimacy. It was also designed to better prepare students for post-secondary education, extending beyond just traditional home economics programs.
A practical step towards broader opportunity for the students.
A conscious effort, yeah. Ensuring its students could transition into a wider array of intellectual pursuits.
Okay.
This also raised an important question about global awareness and cultural understanding. The 1969 guide expanded its worldview significantly,
How so?
including all cultures, in its discussion of clothing functions. A stark contrast to the earlier, more Western-centric approach.
Right.
It even cited popular, widely accessible magazines like Life and National Geographic as source material for students to study clothing habits globally.
Using Nat Geo in class. Nice.
Yeah, this reflects a clear shift from a purely local, Western focus to a broader, more international perspective, encouraging students to look beyond their immediate environment, understand diverse ways humans express themselves, and organize their lives through material culture.
Fostering a more cosmopolitan mindset.
Exactly.
And crucially, this guide gave teachers a lot more flexibility and autonomy, right? That seems like a big change in teaching style.
Huge change in pedagogy.
Yeah.
The 1969 introduction stated the course outline need not be followed in precisely the same order.
Really?
Yeah, and strongly encouraged teachers to supplement with their own experience and ingenuity.
That's a far cry from the rigid instructions of 56.
Absolutely. It also strongly recommended teachers read external academic references like Dress, Adornment, and the Social Order by Roach and Eicher, published in 1965, to acquaint themselves with new viewpoints,
Encouraging professional development.
emphasizing continuous professional development, shifting teachers from simply delivering content to becoming continuous learners themselves, adapting their teaching to student needs and the rapidly changing times.
A practical step towards a more dynamic, responsive education.
Precisely. But what's truly fascinating here is how the dressed body took center stage in 1969. It became the primary material phenomenon to be managed and improved.
The body itself, not just the clothes.
The body itself. The curriculum guide stated, daily health and beauty care are essential to good appearance, suggesting teachers now had a direct influence on students' bodies through instruction on proper diet, regular exercise, and a constant awareness of posture and poise for physical attractiveness.
Wow, diet and exercise and home.
Yep. The body was framed as being in a constant state of improvement,
Oof, that sounds familiar.
a concept that clearly reflects the rise of consumer culture and the burgeoning industries focused on beauty and fitness in the 1960s.
A practical step towards cultivating that modern, attractive self, linking personal habits to public presentation.
Directly.
And the 1969 curriculum was even more explicit about external judgment, wasn't it? Bringing a new level of scrutiny.
Even more so. Students were expected to work in small groups to analyze posture while sitting, standing, and walking.
Critiquing your classmates' gait. Seriously.
Seriously, teachers were encouraged to display bulletin boards illustrating the results of good and poor nutrition with regard to appearance.
Oh my goodness.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The guide even suggested bringing in physical education instructors, beauty consultants, hairdressers, and models
Outside experts.
to give instruction on posture, exercise, and modeling. And get this, with male classmates, sometimes included as evaluators of female students' appearance,
Male students evaluating female students' posture and modeling. Wow.
overtly taught young women that their appearance would be and should be constantly judged by others, offered by those they were trying to attract.
It's a profound aha moment when you realize how much this prefigured the constant external validation we seek, especially online today. That pressure is intense.
It really is, and that's a critical point because this raised an important question about defects in self-expression.
Defects.
Yes. The curriculum emphasized improving appearance by using art components to create optical illusions, accentuate assets, and minimize defects.
So camouflage your flaws.
Pretty much. Students were told to analyze their face shapes, figure, and coloring week, then choose designs to accentuate their good points and minimize their poor ones.
Okay.
Now, while the guide stated an objective to develop an appreciation of clothing construction as a means of self-expression, this was always within parameters of acceptable criteria.
So self-expression, but only the right kind.
Exactly. This highlights the palpable tension between individual expression and the prevailing pressures of social conformity. It's a practical guide to managing your appearance, but always with an eye towards external approval.
How different is that really from curating your online profile today, using filters to minimize defects and accentuate assets?
It's a very powerful parallel, absolutely.
And it's important to remember that while the 1969 guides stated a coeducational intent, right, they said,
They proclaimed this course is easily adaptable to male or female students, and even that it was planned with male students in mind also.
God.
But the advice on appearance and attractiveness remained almost exclusively directed at female students.
Orse.
The irony here is that male students were often framed in the role of experts or evaluators of female appearance,
So much for co-ed in practice.
underscoring how persistent gendered expectations remained, Even amidst a stated push for inclusivity and broadening the curriculum, it highlights how deeply ingrained these societal roles were, despite the best intentions for change.
Wow. Okay.
So, if we connect this to the bigger picture, across both the 1956 and 1969 curriculum guides, a consistent, overarching theme emerges.
What's the main thread?
Young women were consistently conveyed the message that their material environments, whether the meticulously managed home or their carefully curated dressed bodies, would be subject to constant evaluation by others.
Always being watched, judged.
The explicit goal was often to achieve a pleasing presentation, whether that was for family members in 1956 contributing to national stability,
Right.
or for peers and broader societal expectations in 1969 aimed at individual success and attractiveness. This pressure to constantly manage and present oneself for external approval is a profound takeaway.
A hidden curriculum within the practical lessons.
Definitely.
And it's truly fascinating to see how the definition of future success for young women evolved so dramatically in just over a decade.
Huge shift.
In 1956, success was tightly linked to being a proficient homemaker, someone contributing to national stability through her impeccable character, well-run home.
The good wife, the good mother model.
By 1969, that definition had shifted significantly. Success now leaned towards individual independence, achieving peer acceptance, developing capacity for higher education or diverse careers,
Right.
with the body becoming the primary site for demonstrating personal agency and attractiveness in a wider social sphere. It's a practical guide to navigating different eras, really.
Absolutely. And this also highlights a crucial shift in the specific terms of evaluation.
How they were judged.
Exactly. In 1956, terms like good, happy, and successful were used to describe the home, embodying moral principles linked to building a strong democratic nation.
Okay, moral qualities.
By 1969, the focus shifted predominantly to physical attractiveness and minimizing defects for external critique, particularly for the dressed body.
From morality to appearance.
This change reflects broader cultural shifts in societal values, moving from a collective moral focus to a more individualistic, appearance-driven consumer culture, where individual presentation became a commodity to be optimized.
Wow. So what does this all mean for you today listening to this? This isn't just a historical anecdote, is it?
Not at all.
How do these deeply ingrained historical approaches to home economics subtly shape our unspoken expectations about domestic responsibilities, personal appearance, even the division of labor in families right now?
Yeah.
Understanding where these ideas came from, it can be a powerful practical step, helping you to critically assess current norms rather than just blindly accepting them.
Definitely.
Maybe you feel a pressure to always have a perfectly organized home or to present yourself flawlessly in every social situation, knowing that these pressures were literally taught in schools for generations.
It can help you identify their roots.
Exactly, and consciously decide how you want to engage with them.
And this raises that important question. Home economics, across its entire history, has always been about the complex and important relationships that exist between humans and the material phenomena that surround us, and that we are embedded in,
Right.
from dressed appearance and home interiors to wider contexts. These curriculum guides weren't merely teaching practical skills like sewing or cooking.
No.
They were transmitting powerful societal values through very specific material practices, creating a hidden curriculum that shaped generations.
They were teaching people how to be in the world.
Not just how to do things in the home.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that ultimately brings us to empowerment through awareness, doesn't it?
I think so.
While some of the past advice might seem dated or even a bit oppressive today, like that constant surveillance for external pleasing,
Yeah.
the original intent was often to empower young women to succeed within the prevailing cultural norms of their time.
Right. Give them tools for their reality.
By mastering their material environments, they gained a form of agency and a pathway to what was deemed a successful life back then.
Mm-hmm.
By understanding that context, you gain agency over your own choices today. Knowing why certain norms exist or where certain pressures originated can be the most practical step you take in navigating your own daily life, your family dynamics, more consciously.
It's about being informed, not just about history, but about yourself.
Yeah. So we've explored how home economics transformed from that field focused on the moral homemaker building a democratic nation
Right.
to an interdisciplinary field addressing individual identity and societal change. But a consistent thread, as we've seen, is that pervasive theme of external evaluation woven throughout.
Shaping how individuals were taught to present themselves and their homes. It's always there.
Always there.
Indeed. And homes and dressed bodies, they remain central to the human experience, right? Fundamental aspects of how we navigate the world and express ourselves.
Absolutely.
The practical steps taught in home economics, while evolving dramatically over time in their specific manifestations, they consistently aim to equip individuals for optimal and sustainable living. This historical deep dive illuminates the profound and sometimes subtle ways society guides us through our material world, shaping our expectations and behaviors in fundamental ways that continue to impact us today.
Yeah. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe consider this provocative thought.
Okay.
In an age dominated by social media, where curated online presences and constant digital feeds dictate so much of our self-perception, how do today's digital guides and influencers continue to shape our perceptions of optimal living and acceptable appearance?
Ooh, good question.
In ways that eerily echo the curriculum guides of the past.
The parallels are strong.
What does this mean for our own home economics in the modern era, where our homes are increasingly digital spaces and our bodies are constantly on display? And crucially, how can understanding this history help you navigate it all more consciously? Perhaps choosing to break free from unexamined expectations and create your own authentic science of right living.
Taking control back.
Exactly. We encourage you to continue your own deep dives, explore these questions, and perhaps even rethink what home economics truly means for you and your family in the 21st century.